All right, welcome to the live stream of object-oriented analysis and design using UML 1DV607, week 42. Only 2 weeks left. I can't believe it. But yeah, looking at the schedule, next week will be a busy week indeed. Higher grades deadline for workshop number 1 and workshop number 2. Complementary changes for workshop number 1 and deadline for assignment number 3. I'm saying workshop. Workshop is the old course, so that's ingrained in my synapses, I guess. So assignment number 1, complementary changes. Assignment number 3, deadline. Higher grades for assignment number 2. And we also have a third chance to pass the test next week. So it's on Friday, the 29th. So the week that has passed, I think it has been a nice week. Quite good progress. A lot of people have passed the test now. I'm in the process of checking the comments, and I will start with those who have the lower scores, and I will go from 8 to 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and so on, so that you can get feedback as soon as possible. Yeah, but I think you learned a lot between the first and the second attempt. So there's a bunch more students that has passed now. That's, well, in line with how it usually is. Regarding the sessions that I have had and the questions that I have got during sessions online and at the different campuses, I think everything seems to be under control, and it's the common questions that I get, so no real strange stuff seems to be happening. As I said, most are working on the passing grade for assignment number 3, and if you have the desire to go for high grades, you actually have 1 more week for assignment number 3 higher grades also. Yes, of course you will pass the exam the next time. The tactics are to, well, know the UML and code relations by heart. If you do that, you have some points to score on the test, and maybe more importantly, you get more time for the questions that are a little bit trickier. And use the comments. At least, even if you don't have a good motivation, you can always add a comment, ask a question in the comment, or suggest a solution that you think is the correct one, and then I can provide some feedback on that. Regarding assignment number 2, we are slowly starting to check those. So I'm guessing a few has gotten some type of feedback, but yeah, I'm guessing the bulk of the feedback will actually come during next week, and maybe even next weekend because, well, I have my thesis to write and my deadline is kind of like for that is around here. So my weekend will probably be filled with writing. But I will prioritize also looking at the comments for the test, of course, so that you can prepare for the third attempt if you need to, as soon as possible. All right, that's the plan, what has happened and what lies ahead. And yeah, we are in the final stretch of the course. The final weeks are approaching, and next week will actually be my final time at the final time, the last time for this course at least, that I will visit Campus Växjö. So week 44, the Thursday sessions are cancelled because I have my thesis seminar on that Thursday, and well, quite frankly, that's kind of like the maybe not that important that you can get tutoring for the assignments that you probably have already handed in. So next week will be the final sessions at Campus Växjö. Yeah, there will of course be a questionnaire for this course too. I'm guessing that this will be mailed to your student mails in a week or so. So definitely fill that one out. This year has been a little bit, well, different from previous iterations in regards to, well, we have some new recordings, we have more campus activities and things like that. So I'm looking forward to hearing your comments. And you can, of course, comment on stuff to me directly if you prefer that too. During this week, we actually continued to work a little bit on the suggested solution for the second assignment. I have added a discussion regarding different problems that you may have, or different thoughts that you may have to the design document, and you can take a look at that. And this could be especially important if you get complementary changes for the second assignment. So it's a little bit about encapsulation and what types of problems you can have when looking at the model view separation principle, and things like this. So yeah, you can take a look at that already if you're curious, but definitely check it out if you have some things to fix for the second assignment. Most of you don't know yet, but in the future you will know. At Campus Växjö, we actually continued with the visitor stuff. So we continued using that, and some interesting things happened in the application that could be interesting to take a look at. For example, in the member registry, we could actually remove this get members function altogether because we have this accept method using the visitor instead. So there is no need to be able to get to the collection of members. You just tell the member registry, I would like to visit you, and it will tell all the members to accept the visitor, and so on and so forth. And using that, we can implement different types of functions. Maybe the most interesting stuff we did was that we added this indexed member list visitor that allows us to print a list of indexed members, and then we can select a member from that list, and we can use that to kind of like move the functionality of get the member to remove into the visitor instead. And this makes it interesting because the kind of like humongous console UI class becomes a little bit less large. So this is like 100 lines of code right now. That's I think is pretty reasonable. If we look at the grade 2, which basically has the same functionality, it has a little bit nicer printouts of stuff, but if we don't use the visitor in this, we have 260 lines of code in this file instead. So by breaking the view up into different parts or different areas of responsibility, the different types of lists and the different and stuff like that, we kind of like remove complexity from this now quite large console UI class. So this was an interesting effect, I think. And this also means that the console UI in the over-engineered part here has no dependencies on both, or no dependencies on the member classes, for example. So even dependencies are starting to be removed from this console UI class. We will see what happens. Maybe we will continue on this track and see how far we can take things, but I think it's an interesting experiment. So don't hesitate to look at it. Don't hesitate to make kind of like these experiments yourself. That's the best way to learn, I think, and especially to learn this art of not going too far with your patterns and too far with your abstractions and things like that. There is definitely a risk that you make two solutions that are too advanced or too strange to actually be good in that respect, that they are easy to understand. And I think this visitor thing that we are doing is definitely at the borderline of what would actually be practically considered a good design. But it's an interesting experiment, and as a student, you should of course experiment as much as possible. All right, I think also for the normal grade 2 here, we did some changes to the controller. You can take a look at that if you want to. So basically what we have done is that we have this idea of the controller having the selected member as a state, and if you have a selected member, then we show a special menu based on that member only. So if you have a member that you have selected, then you can remove the member, you can look at the detailed member information, you can add about the member which is not implemented yet, you can change the member information. So this maybe also points to an idea that maybe we should break up the controller also in different parts. So I think this is a nice kind of like progression, that first you have everything in maybe one big function or one big case switch or something like that. Every option you can do in your controller. Then as we progress, we break things out and realize that, well, maybe the membership stuff is one menu and we can do that separately in a separate method. And eventually maybe we will realize that we can make this a class of its own. So we have kind of like this progression of looking at the code, realizing we can make some improvements, break things out in methods. Then we can maybe realize that we can make things even more modular or more easy to work with, have less code in the classes by making multiple classes also. So you can see this progression of the improvement, the refactoring and the improvement of the design. And I think that's also very interesting. Yeah, I think maybe that's it for this little weekly recap. If there are any questions, feel free to shout them out in the chat, or, well, we do have Slack also, so you don't need to use the YouTube if you don't want to. Yes, I've spoken to some of you, and I can really see this interesting transition from when you started the course. We couldn't really speak at the same level. You were not really ready to talk in kind of like this higher level of abstraction. But when I talk to many of you now, we are talking about these patterns, and we are talking about, oh, who have you selected to be the publisher, and you are starting to get this vocabulary, so we can talk at an entirely different level from specific code constructs. We can now talk about design and solutions and things like that. And I really love to see that progression also in your knowledge. So um, you should be very proud, I think, because thinking back about where you were kind of like just a few weeks ago, you know so much more now, and you have a completely different mindset, at least from the people that I have talked to during this week. So I think this is amazing. Yeah, good things. So take that with you during the weekend and get some rest and relaxation. And I hope to see you again next week. Bye bye.